welcome everyone. This is session 50, not 50, and not Hawaii 50. CICS Interdependency Analyzer in a Devops world. And we've got a joint presentation team today from HCL, Vatsala and Mohit. If you've got any questions, you'll all be on mute. So if you want to pop anything in the chat, and the presenters are happy to take questions during the presentation. We'll do our best to spot them and read them out for you. So without any further ado, Vatsala and Mohit, if you'd like to take it away with your session. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining and listening to us. I'll just start with a quick introduction of me and then Mohit, and then we'll start with the session. Of course, like Robert said, we are happy to take questions in the middle, or we have a separate time allocated for Q&A in this session. So welcome aboard everybody. I am the engineering and support manager for CICS IA, as it is popularly known as CICS Interdependency Analyzer. I've been in this role around 5 years now, and I have an overall 20 years of experience in the software industry, doing diverse roles here, just as many of you here, I guess. And Mohit is the SME and technical lead and architect for CICS IA, and he has been with this product for quite some time now, exploring and still learning is what Mohit says. So yeah, that's us for you. And we are happy to be here and showcase what CICS IA can do in the DevOps world. Of course, CICS IA has been around for years together now. I'm sure many of you on the call would have used it already as CICS developers. It gives you a kind of view into your entire CICS application and not just bits and pieces of your program or your transaction or your resources and so on. So this is slide number 3. I hope that's what you all can see. A quick introduction of CICS IA. There are several things it can do, like you can see here. I'm not going to go point wise, but basically you run your programs, right, in any CICS region. So if you want to get a view of one single region and see what all are part of that particular region, what all programs are running there, which are the transactions which are running there, each program that's mapped to the transaction, and vice versa, transaction mapped to a program, and then which transaction is using which resources. Now, when we say resources, it can be anything, your files, your MQs, or your TDQs, anything, any CICS resource that is mapped to your program or your application, you can see the details of those. And like I said, programs to transactions and transactions to files, specifically which program reads which resource. So in an application, you may be using a variety of things, but then specifically which program or which transaction is aligned to a particular resource is something CICS IA can give you details about. Files access, that is your IO, basically which are the data sets which are being accessed, which are logged, in which mode, whether it's in a read mode or a write mode or which mode is being used. And one of the very powerful things is a affinity. So a transaction has affinity to other transactions or to regions. So those are things which can be analyzed using CICS IA end-to-end. Database resources, another very important factor in any CICS application. And as the application size grows, teams grow, and then changes happen in the teams, it's difficult to keep track of these things yourself. So this is what CICS IA reports to you. So all you need to do is feed a transaction. So Mohit will show a demo soon. Once we complete the few short slides that we have, I'll hand it over to Mohit where he will show you. So, and kind of MQ and IMS resources that your program is using, the modes of those resources. So everything, basically end-to-end detail information about every CICS program and transaction which exists as part of your application. That is in brief what CICS IA does for you as a programmer. So you run your transactions in a region, and then in the region where CICS IA is configured to work, installed to work, then before you start your program or your transaction, you just start something called a CICS IA collector. The collector is something that is a basic piece of work in CICS IA. It runs in the background and it hooks on to your exits and your entry points in CICS transaction server and monitors those entry points and exit points And based on that information, it collects all the data in the VSAM data sets and then transfers over to a DB2 table. DB2 tables based on what kind of data has been collected. And then after all the collection is completed, you can stop the collector and then you have to run specific jobs to do specific tasks. And once those are done, then you get all the data in an Eclipse client. So far till date, we had only an Eclipse interface, which is through the CICS Explorer. So you can go to the Aqua platform and you will see CICS IA listed in both Aqua 3.2 and Aqua 3.3. That's the Eclipse client, which you have to download and you have to connect to your schema. So basically your database where you collected all the information, you connect to that from the Eclipse client, and then you can see loads and loads of Eclipse reports, which gets generated based on the data that was collected during your run. Okay, so that was a quick introduction. If there are any questions, do we want to take that? Okay, if not, then the next slide gives you a little bit more in-depth insight into what I just explained. So on the left, you can see the user. This is where the user is, which is a CICS IA Explorer installed and configured with an IA plugin. This is an Eclipse interface, which is a client interface. Now this goes through several things, which are CICS scanner, load module scanner, and there is a query interface, and then there is a CINT collector interface. Now these collectors are what I just spoke to you about, which are the runtime collectors. One, you can choose which collector you want to run. If you want to run all of them, then you can do so. Otherwise, you can just run the one that you are interested in, and because you are interested in knowing specific data alone. Or if you are a general data to collect everything, in that case, you can run all your runtime collectors together. There is a batch job which you can use to run, and there is also a ISPF panel from where you can start, stop these collectors, configure the day of date in time in for that particular collector to be run, and so on. All the configurations can be done there. There are several things which can be configured. You can refer to the CICS IA user guide for more details. It's a very robust collector interface that we have, which has several options. Not the context of today's presentation, but if you are interested in knowing and you want to see a demo and how it works, please feel free to reach out to me or to Mohit, and we'll be happy to present the whole product interface to you. Now, once the collectors are run, as you can see here, there is the application load library, which is going to take care of report generation, and also all of this data is there in the data space and the user journal. One more important thing which was missed in the introduction slide is the command flow collector. So if for a particular program or a transaction, how your command flows through from where to where, and then how does it come back and so on. The entire hierarchy in terms of chronological order can be seen using the command flow collector. So all of that is part of this. And once that is taken care of, you can see that all the data gets pushed into these DB2 tables, which have the affinity data and the dependency data, which go into specific tables in the database. And once the whole process is completed, then the Eclipse client on the left here that can see the entire flow and the collected data in the form of reports. So this is again in depth exactly what happens at each step. Now, coming to what we are talking about today. So in a standard Devops cycle, which looks almost like what we have shown here in a simplistic form. So we have the plan. So you plan for a particular feature or a product or whatever your requirements are. That's the planning phase. And then there is the create phase. The create phase is something which can be done using your application development, your program development. You write your map sets, you write your MQs, IMS, and you create your CICS transactions and so on. That's the phase where the create part is there. And that's one of the places where CICS IA can help you. So using either the CICS IA Eclipse interface, or now in starting CICS IA 6.1, which will be released in the third quarter of this year. We are also introducing a Zoe client. So you can do all whatever I just explained to you, the reporting part, not just on the Eclipse client, but we also have a Zoe VS Code interface. And also the third interface will be a web client. So you can see part of the reports. So both of these things that I'm talking about, that is a Zoe Explorer and the web client, are something which we are introducing newly in this version of 6.1. So this they don't have the full capability of the Eclipse client yet, but there are quite a few, and you can use them for your day-to-day operations. And we will continue to evolve them. This is just the first phase of those clients. So with the create phase, that's what you can do. And then the verify phase is also another point where CICS will come into picture. So how does it work? So suppose you have a production application and it uses resources, transactions, programs, databases, IOs, and everything. And you have a full set done. Now you want to make changes to this particular application. And that's where CICS cruciality comes into picture. Now, when you have a big, large enterprise scale CICS application, it's very difficult to know exactly which programs are affected by which other programs, or if you change a particular database structure, which other programs are going to be affected, or if you modify a map set, which programs are going to be affected and what will have to be verified again after you make those changes, and so on. So just to name a few small things. So CICS can again do anything and everything that I just showed you in the introduction slide. So in the verify state, what you can do is you first run your collector with your production state application, and then you make the changes that you want to make. And then you again run the collectors. And once you have these two runs together, you can compare these and see what exactly changed between the production version of the application and the changed version of the application. And when you can compare these two, you will know exactly what the changes have happened, because you may not know. You may be changing just one line in a program, or just one table structure, or just one map set, or whatever. But the effect of that may be on different other things, which you may not be able to see because you don't know exactly what are all interrelated to each other. And that's what CICS can show you. So that is the power of CICS. So in the verify state and in the create state is where CICS can be used. Of course, there are the other states in the ops thing, which wherein CICS has no role as of today, but we are planning some things to some kind of capabilities in terms of containers and monitoring those containers in the CICS in the upcoming future. But for now, CICS plays a role in the create and as well as the verify state of CICS. Sorry, in Devops. Okay, so this is how a standard CICS pipeline will look like. So I just explained to you. So you make the code changes and commit it to Git. Then the Git repository is cloned. Yeah, and then you compile and build your changes. So now you have two different versions of your application. One that's in production and one is the changed one. You deploy the change modules in the application. Then you run the test and the application to verify existing and new functionality. So that is standard, right? Anyway, anytime you change anything in your application, you will rerun it and run the tests also to make sure that all the functionality that was working previously is still working correctly. Regression testing, for example. Now, this is where what we are talking about comes into picture. You collect all the IA data by starting the collector while you are running the application, and then you compare the changes. So now you have one version of resources and data that was collected with the production version of the application, and then you have another set of data that you've collected with the changed version of your application. Now for comparison, there is important part is previous and current version of the application has to be run. The production version of the application should have been run and all the relevant data should be collected and kept. Similarly, you will have a new region now where your test transaction will run, which is your change transaction, and then you can compare these two. That's what Mohit will show you in the demo as well. Okay, so that's what we are here to talk about. But quickly, before I hand over to Mohit for the demo, there are two other things. Like I just explained, this is a Zoe client. So yeah, like you do with any you have your Zoe Explorer now, right? Which is VS Code based CICS Explorer. On top of that, you can configure CICS IA plugin as a Zoe client, so that anything that you are doing in the Eclipse client, the same functionality will be available on the Zoe client also. And the second new thing that we have introduced is in the web client, where again, all the reports that are on the Eclipse instead of showing them as text, we show them as graphical representation here. Text is also there in cases where it is applicable, but this is a more different visualization of the same data in the web client. So these are the two things which we have introduced in CICS 6.1, which is scheduled to be released in third quarter of this year. And we are all set. So please do download, install, use the product, and give us feedback. With that, that's all I had to share for today. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take those now. Okay, so Mohit, I'll hand over the floor to you now.
Sure. Thank you, Vatsala. Please let me know if my screen is visible.
I'll just end the show first. Okay, I can see your screen, Mohit. Yes.
Yeah, same.
Thank you, everyone. So for demo purpose, we have created a test application. So where we will be showcasing the CICS IA and how it can be useful in a day-to-day life and how it can be useful in a different phases of the development cycle. So currently, what we will be showing here is we have one CICS region, so which is running with the production equivalent version of the load libraries. So this is our load library, which will be treating as an production equivalent. So the first thing, as Vasula mentioned, in the CICS IA, the first phase of the starting the collector and collect the data for the specific transactions. So this is how our CICS IA screens looks like. So we can go via CINT transaction, we can go to operation menu, and we can start the collector. So before collecting any data for any transaction, we have to start the collector. So now my collector is started, so I can run the transactions. So let's run few of the transactions. Okay, so we have run few of the transaction. Now I will stop the collector. So once we are stopping the collector, the data has been moved from data space to VSM file, as Vatsala has shown in the diagram. So once the data has been collected into the VSM file, we have to load those data into the DB2 tables. So how we can do that? CICS IA provides some simple JCLs to load the data into the VSM file. So we have sample files are here. So for collecting the data, as we are collecting as an before change data, we can give some collection ID here to differentiate between before and after the change data. So let me give some name here. I'll give as a demo prod. So once we submit the job, so it will load the data into the DB2 tables. Now, once the job will run, yeah, now we can see the data into the plugin, because it will be connecting to the database schema. So here we can see it is connecting to the host and port numbers, and we are giving the location in the schema. So once I will do the save and connect, it will show me the available collection IDs. So just now I have collected my data with the demo prod collection ID. So this is where my data has been collected. If I do as in set as current scope, I can see what are the transaction I have run. So it is showing the parent transaction HMN1 and what are the sub transaction which has run from HMS1 to HMS8. Now we will look into one requirement. So let's take a requirement like I want to change the CICS screen layout for HMS2 transaction. So if we will be going with the manual analysis and changes, we can still know that, okay, I have HMS2 transaction which has been triggered by HMN1, and I can quickly find out the program using CEMT. But what are the complete transaction flow or program flow, or what are the resource dependency, that will be very tough to identify. Okay, or it requires a more skill set also. But CICS IA can give us all this data, the complete transaction flow and all the resource dependency, everything very quickly. So if I go and I can, let's take an example. I want to find that how this transaction is using the program. So I can use by programs. So it will quickly give me, so this HMN1 has been triggering this program HCL menu 1, and through this HCL menu 1, the other subprograms has been triggered. So this HCL menu 8, 6, 7, all these programs are passing the control to main programs. Now let's take another use case. Like I want to know what are the resources which has been be used by this HMN1 or HMS transactions. So I can do users resources. I can go all regions. So what it will do, it will give me all the resources which has been used by these programs or transactions. Okay, so it is quickly going through with all the resources showing the program, transactions and maps. Okay, so as per my analysis, okay, I can see all the program transactions, commands, map set, everything. If we have the DB2, MQ, IMS, all those resources can be collected here and can be shown. So as per this demo, I'm having one requirement where I want to change the CICS screen layout for this HMS2 transaction. So now what I can do, I have these resources and I can see, okay, what are the map set and maps has been used by my transaction and programs. Okay, so I can see what are the maps and map set has been used. So these are the, it's still running. So let it be complete then. So I can see here the map set is SS map and my maps are HMN S1 and HMN U1. So this HMN U1 has been called by this main program HCL menu 1. So this HCL menu 1 is triggered by HMN1. Similarly, I have this HMN S1 which has been triggered by these subprograms HMS1 till HMS8. So this map has been shared between these sub transactions and subprograms. But I only want to change the layout for HMS2 transactions. So what I'm trying to do here is, let's take an independent map only used for HMS2 transactions. So what I will do is, so I can go to my project, I can clone the Git and I can make the code changes and deploy it or commit into the Git. After that, I can run the Jenkins pipeline to build the product. And I have one library which has been created. So what I will do, so I'm gonna change the load libraries because that is where my load modules or change modules are there. So I have already created a load libraries. So this library I will replace with this test load library and I will run the CICS region again to reflect the changes. Okay, so this has completed. We can see, so this HMN S1 which has been shared between all these subprograms HCL S menu 1 till HCL MNU 8. Okay, so I only wanted to change for HMS2. Now it has been shared between other programs and transition. I cannot go and change this map. Okay, so for my requirement, I only wanted to change for HMS2 transition. So now I have created a new map HMN S2 for testing purpose, and we'll see that after the code changes, my maps should become from 2 to 3. Okay, so I have this test libraries and I have already changed it here. Just reconfirming. So this is my test load libraries. So I will restart the CICS region again to reflect the changes. Before that, I will close the region. So now my CICS region is using with the test load library here. We can see this one. So now CICS IA, and we can confirm that CICS IA is running. So this CIU log is basically specific for the CICS IA. Now I will log in into the CICS region again. And I have to collect the data for after change also. So I'll go to CINT, we'll start the collector again. And now I will collect the data again for HMN. So previously it was shared and it was showing like this. We will see the change for HMS2. It's little different than what we have run previously. So I'm collecting all the data again. So my data has been collected. Now I will stop the collector. It's showing the same transaction counts. Now I have to load the test data into the DB2 tables. So again, I have to run the sample job from CICS IA. I can give a new name to collection ID to differentiate. I'll give it as a demo test. I can submit it. So the job has run successfully. I will refresh it again so that it will take the other collection ID as well. I can see both the collection IDs present here, fraud and test. Now I can compare like what are the resources has been changed or what are the data has been modified. So I'll go to reason. I have selected the same reason. I'll go to collection IDs. So I'm comparing prod with test. We'll select the transaction. I'm selecting here, even though we have changed into the HMS2, but I'm checking the complete flow. So I'll go to HMN1 so that it give me the big picture. As soon as I will do the continue, it start doing the collections and it start doing the comparing the resources. So as we can see, it is started and so first it will be collecting for the production version and then it will collect with the test version and will compare later on. So as we have seen with the use case, so I was going to change the layout for HMS2. So how it can help with the different phase of the cycle. So as a developer, yes, we would like to know like how this transaction has been triggered, what are the programs has been used, in which CICS region I can change my or I can test my changes, and what are the map and map set has been used by this transaction, what are the other resources which can be used by this transaction. So all those details CICS IA is giving me. Okay, and as we can see here the screenshot also, if we have the big picture, right, we have so many transactions, we can go and filter the other resources. Like if I want to see the transaction, resource, program, cursor, table, file, map, everything I can do with the filter and I can select it here. And once the resource has been selected, I can do the action on these selected items. I can use if I want to see the programs, right? So I can use do the use by program if I want to see the affinities, transactions, program path, or command flow, thread safe, uses resources. So CICS IA is not only giving the resource, but yes, as Vasala mentioned, we can do the command flow, which will show you all the commands in a chronological order. We can find the commands is thread safe or non-thread safe. We can see the affinities. We can use the program path flow. We can see in a flow diagram as in visualizations. So all those sections we can perform here. So as we have seen, right? So this is, so HCL menu 1 is being triggered by parent program HMN1, and we have the main transaction HMS2, which is triggering the HCLS menu 2 program. Here, the other program has been shown because it has the dependency between the map and map set and the parent program. So that is why it is showing the other data as well. Similarly, we can see like uses resources, as we have seen, like it is using one map set, SS map, and these two maps. So one is for HMN1 and other is shared between HMS asterisk transactions. Okay. And so if we see like which region this transaction being used, it is showing as an Apple ID. And this is what our solution is like. We have created a new map. So if it is completed, yeah, then we can see the difference between map and map set here. So it's running with the demo test now. We can see. So if we see the comparison here, right? So our programs, we didn't change. Previously also it was 9 programs, 9 transactions. So map set was same. We can see here SS map. And if we see the map here, right? So previously we had 2 maps, and after the code change, we have introduced a new map HMNS2, so which is showing here. So once this will complete, it will show you and highlight that what are the differences we have found under the comparison of resources. And as I have mentioned in the manual analysis part also, this kind of flow and dependency or other critical informations like what are the other commands, what are the other dependency affinities, this will be required a lot of analysis, which CICS is already giving me as part of collecting the data. So we have different of tables like collecting the CICS data, MQs, DB2, and we have the other flow. Like if you want to see the complete chronological order flow, we can use the command flow. For affinities, we have affinity, then we have the thread safe. So all these things CICS is quickly giving me and benefiting me. So we can see the only difference between the before and after code changes is the map. So previously it was 2 and now it is 3, and it is highlighting which map has been introduced. If I want to see, okay, so what this HMNS2 has been highlighted, so I can go and select this as in current scope. And again, if I do the HMN1, I can see like, okay, where this HMNS2 has been called. So again, it is doing the same thing. It uses the resources. It's going here. So I can see here that my HMS2. So this HMNS2 is being used by HCL menu 2 program. So this is where we can quickly see the importance. And that complete my demo as well. So now we are open for questions. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, I can't see any questions in the chat at the moment, guys. Okay, is that the end of the presentations, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, there's nothing in the chat at the moment, but CICS is a very good product. You know, we've got it at our site, and if anyone's got any questions, I'm sure they can reach out to you through GSE or the HCL contacts. So thank you very much for your time, Vatsala and Mohit. We're back at 1:30 with Chris Hodgins talking about resource builder and resource overrides. So anyone who's interested in the Kick stream, I'll see you back here at 1:30. Thank you for your time, everyone, and see you soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.